Beautiful day, blue skies, and there's just one black cloud over top of me, not anywhere else, blotting out the sun. I wait and I wait and I wait, and the cloud is not moving. And so I picked up my chair, I picked up my blanket, I picked up my towel and my water, and I literally walked myself to the sun. The black cloud moves over top of me again.
Because God had made a cloud just for Kathleen. This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God, those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here for episode 171. Sunlight shines through the darkest clouds. Both of our episodes involve clouds today. Our first episode has Kathleen and this cloud that just kept following Kathleen. And God had said, well, it had a message. It had a message, and she needed to know something. So that's episode one, or part of this first episode. And then there's Olivia and her story. Dark storm clouds. Her father committed suicide. Big question always is, where's his soul? So she asked God, and God responded. And once again, that sunlight bursting through what otherwise were extremely dark clouds. Let's start with that day at the beach. It's the Jersey Shore. Now, Kathleen grew up with a lot of church, a lot of faith, a lot of study, and then, things fade away in the teen years, and she gets to her early 20s, and God isn't so much there. But on this one particular day, well, here's Kathleen's cloud on Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God.
Like I said, when I was 21, which would have been 1991, I had a day off. I was living with my boyfriend at the time, so I wasn't living with my parents. And he was working, and I just took off and went to the beach, which wasn't unusual for me to go to the beach, but obviously at that time there weren't any cell phones or anything. I don't even think I left a note. I would go over to Seaside Park all the time to a specific area there, and I got to the beach. It was a beautiful day, absolutely beautiful skies, blue skies for miles, not a cloud in the sky. Got out my beach chair, my blanket, my towel, and my lunchbox, and my water, and everything I brought with me, and walked out to the beach, got everything set up, and sat down, and I was there maybe 5-10 minutes, and the next thing I know, there's this black cloud that just comes over me, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that'll be here for a couple minutes, but it'll go.
Was it in front of the sun or just over you?
It was over me, but blocking the sun.
Okay.
So it's over top of me, and it's probably only the radius of maybe 100 feet, just kind of in general, like around.
So it's a gorgeous day other than this one black cloud.
Beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky, not even a white cloud. It is blue skies, and there's just one black cloud over top of me, not anywhere else.
Blotting out the sun.
Blotting out the sun. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I wait and I wait and I wait, and the cloud is not moving. I mean, it's just not going anywhere. But I literally could see the sun like around me, but I was not on me. And so I picked up my chair, I picked up my blanket, I picked up my towel and my water, and I literally walked myself to the sun, a little bit out, 10 or 20 feet out of the black cloud, put my stuff back down and set it all up again, and the black cloud moves over top of me again. So I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. Okay, well, at least it's moving, so now hopefully it's going to move. So I wait another 10, 15 minutes, and it's not budging. I mean, it's just absolutely not budging. And I'm just thinking, I don't know what is going on, because there are no clouds at all. So I literally packed up my chair, packed up my towel, my, everything I had, and went out to my car, put it all in my car, and drove down the street. I was going to go home. And as I'm driving, I'm like, it's absolutely a gorgeous day with blue skies. So I drove out a mile down the road, and I thought, I'll just park down here. I'm a mile away now. So there was plenty of parking because it was a weekday. So I just pulled into a spot right near another entrance to the beach there, about a mile down, got out my chair, got everything out, got across the boardwalk again into the beach, set everything up again. I'm sitting there maybe 5-10 minutes, and again, black cloud, like the same kind of black cloud, the same kind of circumference, just comes over me, blocking the sun, and there's sun everywhere.
This has to be freaking you out. At this
You
point,
know,
are you going to aliens? What are you going to in your mind? What the heck?
at this point, I'm just thinking today isn't my day. I wasn't even really thinking anything like this is really unusual. What's wrong with me? What's going on? Who's watching me? Or like, who's controlling the clouds? Or I wasn't even thinking that. I was just thinking, this is insane. Like, how is this even possible that this could be happening? Like it's obviously not my day. Like, or there's just, just wasn't even thinking. I was 21 years old, so I wasn't really thinking like supernatural. I wasn't really even thinking anything. I was just thinking this is just a horrible, like, luck today. So wait another 20 minutes, at least 20, 25 minutes. I'm waiting. Cloud does not move. I mean, it wasn't like a windy day. So like on a windy day, the clouds are just really moving. It wasn't really a windy day, but there was definitely a breeze. I mean, the clouds, if there was any clouds besides this black one, should be absolutely moving away within 5 minutes at least, or maximum.
Yeah. You don't even need sunscreen. It's providing your own sunscreen here.
Right. Yeah, but like I had already put it on before I even got down to the beach the first time. But
Yeah.
so after about 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I just decided that today is not my day. I just don't understand. I'm not going to sit here under a black cloud all day long. So again, I pack up my stuff, put it in the car, and I drive home, which is about 25-minute drive back home. I get home, I get into the house, and I take a shower. And as I'm getting out of the shower, my father and my sister come walking into my bedroom. I don't even know how they got into the house that day because I don't remember anyone else being home. But maybe I left the door unlocked. And I'm thinking, I said, why are you here? Because my father owned his own business and he never, ever missed a day of work. I mean, he had to be, severely, severely sick with like 105 fever for him to miss a day of work. And so they said, well, we've been looking for you all morning. Everyone's been looking for you. We had no idea where you were. Pop-Pop died. My grandfather, my father's father, had passed away that morning, and everyone was looking for me and didn't know where I was.
Well, so, act of God.
Yeah.
At what point does that click?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. At that moment, I didn't really think anything because I was devastated because my grandfather was my best friend. I mean, he and I had a relationship. I mean, he was a wonderful man. He was amazing to all of the grandkids. But I just had this special connection with my grandfather that I was devastated. I mean, I was absolutely devastated. So I don't think that it really clicked right away. But I think if anything, in my head, I was thinking my grandfather was the one that was holding the clouds over me so that I would go home. I think that's just kind of what I was thinking was, oh, Pop-Pop, like, thank you for, I guess that was you holding those clouds over so that I could go home so everyone could find me. So at the time, I think I wasn't even thinking God. I was thinking my grandfather was up in heaven and he was the one holding the clouds over me.
Yeah.
And I think that the whole incident that happened to me with the clouds was overshadowed by my grandfather's death because I was so devastated. And I don't think it really set in until many years later that the only person who could hold clouds over someone for nearly an hour when there's not a cloud in the sky is God.
Yeah. What a sign. What a beautiful sign.
Yeah. That you would think someone who gets that amount of witness that God is for real, that they would be at church every single Sunday, and I still didn't get it.
When did it click and you started coming on back? Because, most of us do go through this gap, before before a light bulb goes on. Hopefully the light bulb goes on at some point. Not everybody. But how much later was it for you when things...
I didn't really come back to God until about 4 years ago when I got sick. Of course, when people get sick, they become call-it-in Christians. And I think that's kind of what happened to me.
What did you say? Call it in Christian? Is that what you said?
Yeah, call it in Christian when you get sick or someone around you gets sick or someone that you love, of course, you're going straight to God. And so with that, I also started doing more research about God. And then that's when all of the memories started coming back to me of all the witness that I had encountered with God incidences like the clouds and some other things, that had happened to me. And that's when I started reading the Bible and realizing that, you can have God without having a specific religion. You just need to be like Christ. And so I'm kind of going to like a non-denominational right now here in Scottsdale that I kind of enjoy. It's probably really old school. It doesn't have, the fancy music and all that kind of stuff, but it's just good everyday life lessons and stories, miracles and all that kind of stuff that, I've really come back to, and just, honoring God and Jesus, and, learning. I'm still learning. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, yeah, we we certainly all are. You're dealing with an immune disorder, and we're all praying for your miracle. And sometimes it takes illness to kind of wake us up in our faith. Let me know when you get your miracle, okay?
I will.
I think you're set for one. I do, because you love God.
I do. I do. And I know that he is absolutely real. Like I said, I think people who just have faith and believe, they don't get the witness of God like people who are just kind of strayed or out there. God had been trying to get me to come back and come back and come back, and kept reaching for me through friends, kept reaching for me through showing me things, talking to me, intuitions, like all of these things. When I look back over those 20 years that I wasn't involved with God, that he tries harder to get those ones back. And you see things, but some people just can't see what they're being shown. And unfortunately, I was one of those people that couldn't see it until I literally lost everything.
It's a great story. It really is a wonderful story of God's love that, I mean, you'd have been out on that beach probably all day, right? Or
Oh yeah,
you'd have
I
been,
would have been out on. I got there about 8 o'clock in the morning. I would have been there till 4 easily. I mean, that's just how you spent your days.
yeah.
As a young person in New Jersey, the beach is just an amazing, wonderful, calming, beautiful place.
Yeah, yeah. And instead, God came and got you because of how close you were with your grandfather. And
Yeah.
it's a great story and a great lesson. And even if it takes years for the dots to connect, they were finally connected. Because as you know, a lot of people would have that experience, like you say, what a weird day. I don't know and they would never make the connection. You made the connection. Any takeaways, any walkaways, any final words to sum it all up, just in terms of your own experiences and where you are?
Oh, just, keep an eye out. There's always those signs and those symbols. I missed a lot of them. And so they're always there for everybody. And, just that God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus is not a fictional story. And that, just there's so much beauty in your life if you are open to it. You just have to be open and have an open mind. And thank you for all that you do and bringing these stories to everybody, and allowing us to listen to other people's wonderful miracles.
Thanks, Kathleen. Gotta love it. God making a cloud. Just sending this dark cloud. Boy, what a lousy day at the beach. No, just God at work here. Just God at work. And once again, through illness, sometimes we find our way. And as long as somewhere along the way in our life, somewhere along the way, we start connecting the dots of what God is doing around us in these touched by heaven moments that we all have. God is communicating with all of us when we, and use your rearview mirror too, if you're new here, as Kathleen did, and went, oh, start looking at your life, and it's amazing what we find along the way. And sometimes it's one tiny black cloud following us down the beach. But now Kathleen going deeper in her relationship with Jesus Christ. Just terrific. Thanks again, Kathleen. In our second story, it's Olivia. Olivia did not have faith in her upbringing. It was just God's in your heart and good luck. And ironically, but maybe not so ironically, again, the death of a grandfather plays a key, pivotal role in the story.
So I guess we'll go ahead and do the big one here. My grandfather, he passed away from cancer June 5th, 2018. And I was at work at the time. And after I got off work, I drove over to their house to see my mom and my dad and my grandma. And it was about 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, I got to get, going home. And my dad, he's like, you need gas in your car. You're not going to the gas station by yourself. That's just how he was. He didn't, want his little girl out at night anywhere. And so he's like, look, you know what? I'll come with you and we'll fill up your tank and you just drop me back off. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So we go, and then he asked me to drive around for a bit. He's like, we can drive around for a little bit, just if you want to. And I was like, okay. And he just kind of told me everything that was on his mind, things that he was struggling with. And he did suffer from alcoholism. He was very ashamed of that. And yeah, he was a bit drunk that night as well, just, in his emotions, telling me everything. I went back to my grandma's house to drop him back off, and he left. And as I was driving down the street, something inside of me said, keep looking at him until you cannot see him anymore. And so I looked in my rearview mirror and I had watched him until I drove to where I couldn't even see him anymore. And I promise you, I don't just go around just looking at people in my rearview mirror, as I drive away from them or anything. But something inside me said, look at him until you can't see him any longer. And that's what I did. And that was the last time I ever saw him. I had went back home that night and I laid in my bed. And as I was laying there, all of a sudden I just hear my grandfather's voice say, John. And that was my father's name. And I was just so confused. I'm like, why are you bringing up my dad's name? That's really weird. I just didn't understand it. And I just kind of thought about it a little bit. And I was like, well, that's weird. And I just went to bed. The next day, my sister texted me and she said, hey, are you home? And I said, yeah. She's like, well, I have bad news. And I was like, oh, what now? Okay. And she calls me and tells me dad shot himself. I'm just like, so he's dead. And she said, yes. Just shock. And I went and told my husband, my dad shot himself. And he was shocked. I'm not crying or anything. I'm just like, what? And then, of course, all of a sudden it hits me and I'm just like a mess. So that was a big double whammy for the family that day.
I know you said he was, dealing with alcoholism, and
yes.
When you had your last conversation with him, was he demeaning of himself? Was he beating himself up, or was it what was on his mind?
Yeah, he was beating himself up a bit, and he just was so hopeless in the situation where he just didn't know what to do. Him and my mom were actually having problems. They were together for like 44 years, and the alcoholism just took a toll just on that relationship. He was just getting more impulsive, more erratic, just not himself at all. Like, that was not my father. He wasn't like mean or an angry drunk by any means, just very emotional. And he was trying to get disability because he actually just had open heart surgery. He had terrible health. His health went downhill so bad. Everything and anything was going downhill. He was 56 and just in terrible health. And open heart surgery has been known to also cause, depression. Yeah. And he had lost his mother, and it was just a very tumultuous time. And it was just the alcoholism and everything was weighing on him, and he couldn't go to work, which made him feel so terrible because, he always wanted to provide, and he couldn't get disability, and he just felt, I guess, like a burden.
That's why all these reasons are the reasons why we can't judge. We just can't judge. When the mental state of somebody that we don't know, and God is a merciful God. He's a merciful God.
Absolutely.
But for you, I mean, this is just about 3 years ago. This happened for you. This is still fresh, isn't it? I mean, it's just right there, isn't it?
It is. It is. Surprisingly, I would think like, 3 years ago. Well, that's a while. But honestly, when you go through something like this, it's nothing.
It's a blink, and it had in the moment. This had to be so. I'm assuming, yeah, he had issues with the drinking and all that, but it's still, you don't see this one coming, do you?
No, not at all, because, we're dealing with my grandfather passing, and that just kind of really took all the focus off of that at the time. I've kicked myself for so long for not seeing it, because we were so close.
But you don't. I know everyone tells you don't, but don't do that to yourself. And that's the trouble with suicide, is the wake it leaves behind. And again, if they were in their right mind, they would know that and they wouldn't do it. But They're just not.
Right. He wasn't my father,
In that
those last
moment, yeah.
he, he just was a totally different person. And when he did kill himself, he actually had like a blood alcohol level of like 0.30.
Oh my gosh.
So it was amazing that he was actually still coherent and able to speak. Um, but that's what happened. He actually sent me a text that morning saying, "Hey, babe, I love you so much. You're a great family."
Yeah.
And I had replied to him, and I kept checking my phone. I'm like, that's weird. I'm not getting a reply. And that's because he was already dead.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry. And so is he.
Yes. Yeah.
Messages from him since?
Oh, yes, absolutely. My first one was actually the day after his passing. I was outside and my car alarm just started going off. And it's like 9 o'clock in the morning or so, and there's nobody around. I didn't even know that alarm still worked on my car. I haven't heard it in years. And then all of a sudden it's just going off. And I'm like looking around, like, what happened? Did something hit the car? What? And I walk up to the car and I walk to the passenger side where he was, and it stopped. And the vehicle was the last time I was with my dad driving around.
Yeah.
And then the next day after that, I was outside sitting on the porch drinking coffee, and there was like this little worm on the sidewalk. And growing up, my father, he would save every living creature from anything. And that's just what we did. See a worm struggling on the sidewalk in the morning, you put it in the dirt, just to help it out. And as I was helping out the worm and everything, the car alarm went off again. And I'm like, my goodness, and that point, I started connecting the dots a bit.
That's amazing. That's
Right.
amazing. And it says something about his heart, too, that he's saving worms.
Yes. Oh, he was so tenderhearted. Very much so. I just thought that was crazy. And then smoke alarms started going off in the house as well. Just dead. I didn't even use the microwave, and they just started going off. The batteries were not bad at all. We had like this little key punch code thing on the door, electric, and then the doors started just clicking and going crazy. So for about a month, I have this car alarm going off, the smoke alarms going off, the doorknob, like all this electrical stuff just going nuts that never went crazy before.
Did you also think ghost? I mean, where is he? Did that come to mind as well? Because these are kind of in that realm, not completely, but just thoughts that were going through your head.
I was just like, is he just kind of hanging around here for a bit to let me know he's okay? Because we were so close. I don't know. And I started telling my sister these things that were going on. She's very Christian. They go to church. They're very involved. And she was like, well, you got to be careful of those things because it could be the devil trying to trick you. And, that was kind of like, oh, dang, And so one day for clarity, I was out on the back patio and I was praying to God. I was like, please bring clarity and discernment to this situation because, I want to know what I'm dealing with. Is this real? Is this a trick of the devil, or like my sister suggests? I want to know. Or is it what my heart feels it is? And at that moment that I'm talking to God, I hear this alarm going off. And I'm like, is that my smoke alarm again? And I didn't cook anything that day, of course, and I'm outside. Nobody's inside. I was the only one home. And I come back in, and sure enough, it's smoke alarms all through the house going off. And I just say, Dad, is that you? And then they stop.
Interesting. Wow. And to your point, We were talking about this recently. There's discussion sometimes about whether the devil can read your mind. General consensus around the Catholic world is that he cannot. He can make you feel like he can, but he can't. But he's very cunning. He's very cunning. So if in quiet prayer, and the devil doesn't know what you're saying to God at any particular moment, in your mind, this is your prayer. He's not allowed in there. And so with you saying, give me clarity, and then the alarm goes off, speaks to this not being demonic. I think that's a pretty strong statement. This is just my opinion. That's my opinion. I can be a million miles off, but that is from what I have learned.
And yeah, that's just what I felt also in that situation. I'm a very cautious person. I, don't want to just go wholeheartedly into something.
Right. No, discernment's so important in this because your sister's point, she's absolutely right. They mess with you, and especially they mess with you in afterlife stuff. Absolutely, they got so many people messed up by oh, that's Uncle Bob. No, it's not Uncle Bob. It's just a demon talking to you. But the fact that these things are happening, as your mind is doing things, you're in prayer with God.
What really helped me kind of look at it all and be more positive at it was when I had a dream with my father. I've had several dreams with him. They were, you wake up, they're dreams. But this one in particular, it was 100% different. It was almost like an interruption of a dream I was already having. All of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm in this room and I look up and my father's standing by this doorway. And I'm just in total shock. I'm like, what are you doing here? Your dad, like, oh my God, dad, this, oh my God. And he looks like he always did when he was healthy. He's just glowing, like with just happiness. He has a smile on his face with this warmth and love. And he didn't say anything to me at all. But that look in his eyes, it was so vivid. It just told me everything I needed to know. And I ran up to him and he gave me this big, tight hug. He always gave these tight, good hugs. And I could just feel it. It was very real. I just felt that hug so tight. And I kind of came out of that. Like I could actually see myself hugging him from the outside. I started actually kind of coming out of myself, and then I woke up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, after that, there was no more alarms or anything going on. And my sister's like, why is this all happening to you? We're not getting anything. And I'm like, well, I prayed for that dream. I asked God, please let my dad visit me. I prayed every day for that.
Yeah. Who knows why some people experience things and some don't. That's always a question. People are always, well, why did that happen to that person? Because it did, whatever, whatever reason.
And also, I've had situations with the radio. I remember driving down the road one morning headed to work, and I was thinking about my dad and just thinking about how amazing this morning was. It was so beautiful, sun going through the trees and everything. And next thing I know, my radio switches to this gospel station. And I'm like, what? Because I was like in a really strong tower area and it never switches. I don't even have a radio station programmed for gospel at that point. And it said, to know Jesus, you've got to read the Bible. And then it went straight back to the radio.
The other station.
Yes. And at that moment, I knew exactly what it was. And I was like, holy moly, this crap just really happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but there's a message in that too. And it's true for all of us. We do need to know the Bible.
Yes.
We need to know Scripture. We need to understand what's going on in there. Because life is an open book test, as I say. It's an open book test, but you got to know what it says.
Yes.
And I'm someone that didn't. I say that as someone who came from, I don't need that. It's all boring. No, there's pretty cool stuff in there. There's some pretty cool stuff. So, and when did that happen?
Probably 2 or 3 months after my dad passed.
Mm-hmm. Did it change anything about the way you treat the Bible or look at it or study it or anything like that?
Yes. It made me more aware, that to really understand Jesus and how he works, I've got to read the Bible. And I actually got that Bible that my grandmother gave my father that night. She saved him that night, actually, before he passed.
How's that?
They were on the back patio, and he was just like, I want to be saved.
This is the day he killed himself?
The night before.
Okay.
And she saved him, and he's like, I really want to read the Bible. And she gave him that Bible, wrote his name in there, and put the date, and gave it to him. So yeah, the night before she saved him.
So he was seeking.
Yes.
That's a great sign too. That's a great sign. All right. So since then, all's been quiet around the house, and the worms are good, and there's no alarms going off, so we're good.
Yes. The chaos has left.
Okay. So what comes next in your story?
When I met my husband, I worked at like this little grocery store, Winn-Dixie. I was a cashier at the time. I was like 22. And he came through my line, and he was always trying to buy something. And we had this little scanner to scan cards. And my scanner would never work for him. It just never did. It was so embarrassing. It would work for everybody else, no matter what register I was at, no matter what scanner I had. It never worked when he came through my line. It mortified me, honestly.
Because you thought he was cute.
I did.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want not him. I want everything to work smoothly for him. I want him to keep.
Exactly.
I want him to keep coming back here.
Right. It just turned very awkward.
Yeah. Did he mention that it was always when you were the teller and never?
Yes.
Oh, it never happened when he was checking out someplace else.
Right. He was like, when he got through the line, he was like, here we go. You probably don't know how to scan it right or something. And I was like, no,
it's her. So did it bring about conversations because you were always having to, fix something or ask for somebody else to come? Aisle 7 again.
It did. And I was just mortified.
So who took the first bold step?
He did.
What did he do?
Well, what happened was one day I actually just got sick and tired of the rudeness of some people and the customers, and I just quit. I was like, that's it. I quit. I was like, called a bagger over, and I was like, you work this checkout. I'm done. I'm done with this. And I clocked out and I left. I had no intention of going back. And my store manager called me the next day and was like, what happened? And I told her, and she was like, well, how about you go work in produce? You ain't got to deal with the customers. And I was like, really? I just quit, walk out on the job that day, and you're telling me to come back and work in produce? And I'm like, okay. And that was the department that he worked in. So
wait, he worked at the same store?
Yes.
I guess I missed that part. Did I miss that part?
Oh, I'm sorry. I probably didn't mention it.
I might have missed it. It might have been me,
Yeah, we worked in the same store.
Oh, okay. So he puts you side by side, working in the produce.
Yep.
And what did you think? Because you knew he was back there.
Yeah, I was just excited. I was like, this is great. He's a cool person, and I ain't got to deal with customers. I'm just going to be a fruit cutter. This is going to be great. I was very excited about the change and getting to work with him and, kind of just meet him a bit more. Who takes someone back after they walk out and then puts them right back in produce?
Oh, just a God who wants to produce little people and love and all those things. That was the chief produce maker. I think put all that together. You know?
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
One day I was standing back there and like this like internal voice inside me said, "That's your husband."
Boy, this seems to
And
be happening a lot lately. You're like third, fourth person I've talked to. Just
oh, really?
where they're hearing voices. Yep, that's your future wife. That's your future husband. That's your whatever it is. It's like God is the matchmaker, and you heard it.
Yes. Yes. And I'm just like, what do you really? And I just got like this, like I felt it like in my heart. I was just like so like sure and excited. I'm like, oh my God, you know, holy, I'm looking at my husband. Really? And he had no idea. That's the thing. He had no idea what was going on here.
Did he ask you out?
Yes, he sure did.
Where do you want to take you?
Oh, he took me to Chef Scott's, which was a sushi restaurant that we have in our downtown Ocean Springs. It's really nice. It was such an amazing date. He's an amazing man. I have such respect for him. We've been together for almost 8 years now. Married for 5. Like he's my best friend. He's everything. And when I was younger, I would pray to God, like, please give me someone that's like this, this, and this. I know it's a long shot, but Lord, please give me a good man. And he really did.
Well, isn't that a blessed thing to say?
Yes.
I'm sure he feels the same way about you.
Oh yes, we're always together.
So you got yourself soulmates here. You guys are soulmates. You really are.
I thoroughly believe so. I don't have a complaint about him except that he snores really bad sometimes. Other than that, he's 100%.
Small price to pay, right?
Exactly. And I bought earplugs last week, so it should work out.
You did what?
I bought earplugs the other week. It should work out.
There you go. You solved the problem. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if those smoke alarms go off again, you won't hear those either. But outside of that, you're fine. You're fine. What's your big takeaway here? What's our takeaway today, Olivia? How do you want to wrap up your experiences with God and just who God is to you and what it should be for everybody?
It's just absolute love, mercy, and understanding. He's not here to, just say you can't do this, you can't do that, and bad. Like he's here to, love you and for you to love him and to follow his plan. Like it's not just like a cheesy Hallmark card saying like God really is real. He's here for you. And don't ever feel like you have to take your life because you feel hopeless or anything, or people don't love you enough. Because there are people that absolutely just adore you. They cherish you. And even if you don't feel it, they do. That's just your mind just not thinking straight. Depression is like, at first it starts off as a seed in the mind. And the more you pay attention to it and entertain it, the more acceptable it becomes. The more suicide doesn't seem as drastic because you've been having it in your mind, you're numb to it, you're used to thinking about it. And it's just when that seed's planted, it's very dangerous. Never let that seed plant. Because once it does, it'll be like a huge snake just wrapping around your mind and constricting it, and you can't break free. There's no substance, no drink, anything that will let you break free from that snake. Anytime you exhale, it will just constrict further on your heart and your mind. And the only way to get out of that situation is to go to God. And He will make you new.
And especially, I know with young kids, you can just see how when God plays a less active role in people's lives, how that number keeps going up too. There's a connection there. There's a definite connection.
Well, yeah, if you don't have God in your life, then you're not experiencing that hope and love.
Yeah.
There's that emptiness when you don't have God.
No doubt about it. Well, God bless you. God bless your heart, Olivia. God bless your heart. You were raised by a wonderful dad and a wonderful mom.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it shows. It really shows.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, and I gotta, I always love it. This is the part I like to do because then I don't have to do it. You have to do it. Are you ready to do something that I now don't have to do?
Sure, why not?
You're helping us on Patreon.
Yes.
And not only are you listening and obviously sharing your story, but also supporting what we do. Tell me why.
Because it's made such a difference for me, and I know that is helping so many other people. And I hope my story as well helps somebody else. People always tell you how much it's helping them. And especially these days and times, it's just so critical for people to have something like that. And so I'm 100% will support that.
Thanks, Olivia. Some beautiful reflections you had there. Some of mine have to do well, God has so many different ways he can communicate with us. So the fact that it's a car alarm, there's loud, smoke alarm, loud. The statement to me was life. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with how long a life lasts. Just don't. This is God's plan. But Father wasn't in his right mind, as Olivia said. He wasn't. He was not in his right mind, and only God knows everything about us, and there's nothing like his ocean of mercy and this Father who cared so much about worms. This is a loving, beautiful dad. Beautiful. And I love the fact that in this gorgeous dream that Olivia had, he was standing in a doorway, she said, a doorway, moving from one room to another, growing. When we get to the other side, it doesn't stop. We've heard this before. It doesn't stop. Our growth, our spiritual growth, getting closer to God does not stop. It continues, and our dad's continues. Another part, God, the amazing matchmaker of God. And if we would just be patient, we always tend to jump the gun on everything, not just relationships, but everything, jobs and everything we do. We just always jump the gun instead of waiting with a little bit of patience to what God wants to do. And here, every sign in the world, the angels must have had a ball messing with the scanners. And then you have the employer going, oh, come on back, go into produce. What? And just watching, God's gorgeous plan. We just need to be a tad more patient. So thank you, both Olivia and Kathleen, for your great stories today and great reflections and continued growth in how the sun, S-O-N, that sunlight shines through even the darkest clouds. Thank you for that. What's your story? Get a hold of me at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks for your support through patreon.com. And just search for Trapper Jack. And what else can I ask you? Oh, just, listen again, maybe next week. I bet there's another episode. I'm counting on it. Counting on your stories at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks so much. And we'll see you next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.